Good morning, beloveds. We are okay. First off, if you read the title, then I am a day behind. That's on me. Yesterday, it occurred to me that I hadn't done the live stream, and then I hadn't done the live stream, and then I just didn't do the live stream. And I'm fussing with my camera angle today because I'm on day 5 of still not being able to do it from my phone. I've reported it twice to Facebook, but it was a holiday weekend, so as we know, nothing gets done on the holidays because I did nothing over the holiday. Oh, except get ordained. So there's that. So my goal is I'm going to do yesterday's this morning, and then sometime tonight I will do today's, and then I will be caught up. Because, you know, in 2 years I've literally not missed a day. I think there was a couple of Saturday nights when I was working out at fair where I would do them the next morning. So that's what I'm doing now. And I have no excuse other than it was just, it was a lot this weekend. So that's where we are. So good morning, beloveds. So like I said, I'm doing yesterday. The day is May 30th. I live in the changeless reality. Our quotes are, "The world passeth away and the lust thereof, but they that doth the will of God abideth forever." And that is 1 John 2:17. The second one, it is an Ernest Holmes reading. The second quote is, "All that is with you passeth away, but that which is with God abideth." And that is from the Quran. Neither the will of God nor the nature of God can change. Reality is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That which was, is, and that which is will remain. People's real nature is spiritual. The only thing about them that can change is that which ought not to be permanent. Though the real self is changeless, we live in a changing world. Thus, all of our experiences are bound together on a thread of continuity, which Lowell calls the thread of the all-sustaining beauty, which runs through all and doth all unite. It is wonderful to know that something permanent, substantial, and eternal stands in the midst of our being, and I believe watches with joy the eternal unfoldment taking place. To spirit, changes are merely variations of experience. Spirit is never caught, tied, or bound. Ugliness may seem to exist for a brief moment, but beauty, like truth, endures forever. All that is evil passes. It cannot exist even for a moment when faced by the divine reality. Everything that we now experience objectively will change, as it ought to, but that which is with God abideth. I know that I live in a changeless reality. I am not disturbed by the passage of time, by the movement around me, nor the variations of experience through which I go. Something within me remains immovable and says, "Be still and know that I am God." This I am, which is God, within me is substantial, changeless, and perfect. And yes, it is E.H. It is an Ernest Holmes today. I can always tell it's Ernest Holmes because Ernest Holmes is the only one who doesn't quote from the Science of Mind text. Literally every other reading, every other minister and practitioner that does the daily guides in this book so far quotes from the Science of Mind text. Okay, so I live in the changeless reality. Let's think about this for a minute. The only thing that is constant in our material existence is change. I mean, from a cellular level, we are constantly changing because we are constantly shedding cells and generating new cells. We are constantly generating new thoughts and new ideas, and things are constantly changing around us. And so what I believe Ernest is reminding us to hold on to is at the very center of our being, there is a kernel, a seed, a point that is absolutely immovable and unchanging and enduring. And so, and I like the idea of the enduring, because it means that no matter what happens, there's a part of me, there's a part of you that will always survive. Always. And that's the part of us that is truly God. It is the part of us, I would even call it the seat of our animation. Because we don't have the ego to think that we are God. What we do is we know that we are made of God, by God, for God. And that's why I like to use splinter, because it reminds me that I'm tiny. In the grand scheme of things, I'm tiny. I'm a tiny little light. But the light that I'm made of is God. So it doesn't matter how small I am, I still have value. You know? Because the source of my being is the value. So whatever else I do in this world, I will always have that value of knowing the source of my own being. Because if Jesse gave us a summer assignment to know who we are, and to look at the beautiful parts and the messy parts and the ugly parts and the, because it's easy to look at the pretty parts. It's easy to look at the pretty parts. When we start digging into the ugliness and the messiness that we are, and I hesitate to use the word ugly, because frequently what we might term ugly isn't really ugly, it's just messy. And so, and own that. I mean, I'll tell you, one of the messiest parts of me is I have a temper. I like to joke patience is a virtue, and it's not one of mine. And the reason it's not is because I have a temper. I have done a lot of work, and so that I, for the most part, control that temper. You can ask Tom. I'm not 100% successful. He tends to see it more than anybody else, because he sees me when I'm tired and frustrated. I try not to show that face in public because it doesn't serve anybody. And I try not to do it to him, but fortunately, for the most part, he can look at me and go, "You're being ridiculous, please stop." And most of the time I will. Knowing that splinter at the center of me, it means that I can make all of the changes that I like. All of them. I can make changes that I don't like, but I can make all of the changes that I like. But knowing that there is a core of me that is part of the changeless reality, so that no matter what happens, I'll always be okay, is surprisingly comforting to me. It may not be for you, but it is for me. So let's see, Ernest. Okay, I live in the changeless reality. I wonder if you might consider saying I live from the changeless reality. Because when you look around the world and you see how fast everything changes, then, that's not, so if we change that title to I live from the changeless reality, I live from that God core, I live from that Christ core, that might be, it might mean a little bit more. Far be it from me to criticize Ernest's titles, and yet here I am doing it. But that's the reason why we're open at the top. We can have our own interpretations. Ernest was not about to cut anybody's ideas off. He's like, as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting anybody else, go with it. Go with it. Okay, and did you notice that the reading from John and the reading from the Quran are basically the same reading? It's why the Jewish religion, the Christian religion, and the Muslim religion, Islam, they're all called people of the book. They all use the same book. They all start with the Jewish Testament, and then the Muslims include the Christian Testament, and then they have the Quran. They all use the same. They all have the same starting point, regardless of what people think. Okay, so because literally, it's 1 John 2:17. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doth the will of God abideth forever. And then in the Quran, all that is with you passeth away, but that which is with God abideth. Now, I like the fact that the Quran is gender neutral, and the one from John is not. I did gender neutral it when I read it the first time. Okay, so neither the will of God nor the nature of God can change. Thank God, because if God could change and God was temperamental and mercurial like I am, the world would be a lot messier than it was. The fact that God cannot change, I appreciate. And that's what I liked when Jesse started the Ursula Gesterfeld series, which is what he just finished, is what he said, principle, not personality. Because when God has a personality, God gets judgy. And that's not the kind of God that I want to deal with. I don't want to deal with a judgy God. I don't want to deal with a personality. Occasionally, I want to deal with a personality. But I understand, as the Hindus do, that I am imposing the personality on a small section of God that I, at this point, want or need to deal with. I understand that. It'd be nice if the rest of the world did. But, we'll get there, right? I'm not going to push my idea of God on anybody else. I'm simply going to present it and say, hey, this might work better. Might. Reality is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That which is, and that which was is, that which is will remain. And that's what. So the next line is people's real nature is spiritual, and that's what God said. Human nature and divine nature are the same thing. We have been separating them for too long. There's the same thing. Our human nature is divine nature. We need to act like it. The only thing about them that can change is that which ought not to be permanent. You know what ought not be permanent? The material part of us. This isn't permanent. We're here for a period of time. We are here to learn. We are here to grow. As Jesse said on Sunday, we are here to rub off our rough edges. But this is, it's clearly not permanent because you can see the changes that happen from birth to, adulthood. We change rapidly. And then as we go through our adulthood, we continue to change. Do I look like I did 20 years ago? No. Do I look like I did 10 years ago? No. This has changed. It's a different color now. And what am I going to look like in 10 years? This isn't meant to be permanent. Thank God it's not meant to be permanent. Oh. Because this is not permanent. This world, sorry, just thinking. Though the real self is changeless, we live in a changing world. That's where that just came from. We live in a changing world. Thus, all of our experiences are bound together on a thread of continuity, which Lowell called the thread of the all-staining beauty, which runs through all and doth unite. All unite. I'm betting that's a poet. And when I took the reincarnation class from Amit Goswami when I was in ministerial school, because I just couldn't let that one go, that was one of the ways that he taught it, and I think it came out of the Hindu tradition, is that our lives are a string of pearls. So the thread of continuity, that core center of us that is God, is that thread that runs through the pearls. And our lives are the pearls. Our experiences are the pearls. And some of the pearls are going to be bigger than others. I don't know what to think about the knots. Because if you buy real pearls, there's knots in between to protect the pearls from each other. Oh! That makes sense. The knots are where we rest, which protects our lives from bleeding into each other and making us even more neurotic than we already are. Huh. Interesting. Okay. All right. It is wonderful to know that something permanent, substantial, and eternal stands at the midst of our being. And I believe watches with joy at the eternal unfoldment taking place. God wants us to be happy. God wants us to be happy. But God gave us free will, which means we can choose unhappiness. But we don't have to. And if we would let go of the idea of, the material permanence, we would probably be a whole lot happier. But that's just speculation on my part. I'll have to try it. You try it and let me know. To spirit, changes are merely variations of experiences. Spirit is never caught, tied, or bound. And I think that's helpful to know that. Spirit is never caught, tied, or bound. It does matter. Our experiences in this material reality, where we feel caught, where we feel tied, where we feel bound, in the long run, they're not going to hold spirit back. Ugliness may seem to exist for a brief moment, but beauty, like truth, endures forever. And it reminds me of that Emerson quote that you hear frequently about truth smiling in repose, or eternity smiling in repose. And now I'm messing up my Emerson quote, so I'm just going to let it lie. But point being, if it doesn't matter in 5 minutes, if it doesn't matter in 5 years, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. All that is evil passes. It cannot exist for even a moment when faced by the divine reality. Because evil is not a thing in and of itself. It is a misuse. And when it is faced with the divine reality, then we make better choices. Everything that we now experience objectively will change, as it ought to. But that which is with God abideth. So when we are caught up in the midst of a head-spinning change, then where do we go? To the core of us, to the center of us, to that kernel of us that is unchanging because it is God. And we hold that. And then as the world spins out around us, we know we'll be okay. So, I know that I live in a changeless reality. I am not disturbed by the passage of time, the movement around me, nor the variations of experience through which I go. Something within me remains immovable and says, "Be still and know that I am God." This I am, which is God within me, is substantial, changeless, and perfect. All right. The mission today, should we choose to accept it, it may be helpful to remember that changes are merely variations in experience. So I would say that the mission today is to look at that, especially when things are messy. It doesn't change who we are at the center of our being. It's merely a variation in experience. And it's a strange mission today, because it's a mission where I'm asking you to go back to the center of yourself, to the core of yourself, to know who you are at the center of your own being. To consciously unite with the source of your own being. All right, so that is the mission today. Random, weird, but changeless reality. Whew. It's kind of, because we've already got that summer assignment. It's the summer assignment of knowing who we are. And this is just one place to leap off into that assignment. The other thing is, I always do, I encourage you to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself, whatever that looks like, big, small, doesn't matter. Point is to practice. It is a spiritual practice. And if you can do it for yourself, trust me, you can do it for anybody. Because frequently we are our own toughest customer and client. Okay. I'm going to encourage you, as I always do something. Hang on. Do something to engage your mind and your body. Drink plenty of water. Go get that bright early sun. It's intermittent cloudy today, but it was a beautiful day. Except it was muggy and hot. So it's like, it's beautiful when the wind is blowing. Breeze. Turn the breeze on. And as always, open the windows of your soul. Allow that breath of heaven, that breeze of heaven, to remind you do live in heaven right here, right now. It's all around you. Because it comes from within. It comes from that changeless reality within you. That's where heaven comes from. We bring it out from within. It blossoms from within us. And we can always take Emma's advice to look for the good and praise it. So, whatever else is happening, I don't know. I had a 4-day weekend. It was great. I rested a lot, but it was also an earth-shattering weekend. So, starting Friday night. So, yeah. I'm going to encourage you to have a great day, an amazing day, a wondrous day, a magical day, an enchanting day, a good day. And if that is too much pressure, simply have a day, because you are enough just as you are. You are a beloved child of God, in whom God is well pleased and well represented. Catch us on the social medias. We are Creative Life Spirit Center, Creative Life Spark. I am the running Rev Ryan. I am going to put it up there where we did record my ordination, but because of the music involved, I left it as a private. So it is on the Running Rev page, and if you want access to it, you're going to have to contact. If you contact Creative Life page, then he'll send you to me, and I'll send you the link. So yeah, because it was special and it was extra, and the musicians really went out of their way for me, and it was wonderful. So take care of yourself. Know that you're loved. Know that Reverend David will be on around 5 p.m. with you. I will be back. Actually, I'll be back with you tonight after I get off of work to do today, so that I can keep track and not get behind. And then I'll be back at 9 a.m. with June 1st. So, all right, beloveds. Know that you're loved, and I will see you next time.